Hi, this is Tina, and welcome to the second episode of Knitting Blooms. Today is May 8th, 2011, and Happy Mother's Day to everybody. I just want to thank all of those of you who watched the first episode and left me your comments on my blog. It's very much appreciated. A few people emailed me directly, some of my friends, that gave me some tips and some ideas of things to change, so I'm going to try and make those adjustments today. And again, I thank you very much for watching. And there was one question from last week that I kind of skimmed over that I said that I was going to revisit today, and that was on the lifestyle sock heel that I like to use on some of my socks. The lifestyle sock heel is, I think that the pattern for the lifestyle sock is a free pattern. You can find it on Ravelry, and also I think it's on a blog entry or something somewhere, but it's a very simple heel, short row heel that has no wraps. It's just you knit to where you need to go, turn back and whatnot. But I will link that short row heel in the show notes this week, so that if you are interested in checking that out, it is a very easy short row heel, and if you have trouble, you know, doing those wraps and turns and what have you, then this might be another option for you. Also last week I forgot to mention what the sweater that I was wearing, so I wanted to mention that this week. And that sweater that I wore last week on last episode was the tomato, and I forgot to look up when I completed that. I think that was back in 2007 or 2008 when I did that sweater. And I really like that sweater. It was made out of Knit Picks mainline, and I love that yarn. I don't think they have that yarn anymore, but it was a cotton wool blend, and it was just a really nice yarn. The only thing that I didn't like about how I finished that sweater was on the sleeve. The cuff on the sleeve, I think I cast off a little bit too tightly, and now I know some other stretchier bind-offs that I can use that I would have probably, you know, I should have used on that one. But that's the only thing that I don't particularly like about how the fit of the sweater fits me. So, and then this week I am wearing the $1.50 cardigan. You will notice I did some changes on this pattern. I think in the pattern the cable only goes up one side, and I'm not really sure which side that is, but it only goes up one side, and the other side is just the plain pattern. And I am not an asymmetric kind of person. I don't like things to be unbalanced, so I decided I was going to balance it out. And I finished this sweater back in March of 2009, and it was too small for me to wear at that time, so I had gifted it to a friend of mine who decided she wasn't wearing it. She feels like me, very self-conscious about wearing hand knits, afraid that, you know, something's gonna get spilled on it or the cats are gonna snag it, you know, what have you. So she gave it back to me a few months ago, and since 2009 when I knit this sweater, I have lost 20 pounds, so I am now able to wear the sweater. So it's really kind of nice that I am able to wear it now. The main thing this week is I haven't had that much time for knitting, and it's unfortunate that it comes the week after I decide to start doing a podcast. But this week I have been really busy at work. I have one of those amazing jobs that I can knit at the office when my work is complete for the day. But we have been really busy. I work for an insurance repair company, and with all the flooding in the area and everything that's going on down south, we have been really swamped this week. So I did get a couple hours on Wednesday and Thursday to knit, but that was it. Usually I get like 4 or 5 hours a day at work to knit, and I didn't knit hardly anything this week at the office. So all of the projects that I mentioned last week as whips, the Icarus shawl, the Demeter's shawlette with the Knit Girls fiber, the modified Lady Eleanor and my Emma's lace socks have gotten no love at all this week. I did start a couple of new projects, which I'll mention in a minute. The other reason that I haven't had a chance to get a lot of knitting done is because the cabinets that you see behind me, we just purchased those last week, just before the podcast, and so I had put away all my yarn, and this corner of the room was organized, but what you didn't see was the disarray in the rest of the basement. So this past week I've spent the week doing a lot of organization, replacing everything that was displaced when I got these cabinets. Then on Tuesday my husband decided to get some additional cabinets for the other side of the room, so again everything was moved around again. So really the basement has been in a lot of disarray this week, so I've spent a lot of time down here just reorganizing stuff, and I was pulling out stuff in order to find room for all of my yarn. I needed to get rid of some of my scrapbooking supplies that I haven't been using, so there was a sale yesterday at my knitting club for my scrapbooking supplies, and so I had all of that stuff pulled out and set aside for the sale. And so yeah, that was another reason why I didn't get a lot of knitting done this week, because sometimes in the evenings after I've finished my workout and whatnot and I sit down to watch TV, I do knit in the evenings, but really Friday was the first evening that I had a chance to sit down and knit for a little bit, and so that's why I haven't had a lot of knitting done. So again, I haven't made any progress on those whips that I mentioned last week. I did start some other projects, and I also want to show you my sock yarn blanket. And excuse me for leaning, Margaret, I'm sorry. I know you mentioned that on your comment to me not to lean, but I set things up a little bit too far away. I thought I had gotten them closer, but I guess not. So this is my sock yarn blanket, and I think I mentioned last week, I didn't count how many squares across, but I think I mentioned it's like 20, I want to say it's 26 squares across. And I haven't got a whole lot done. I started this, again, I didn't look up what date I started this, but I started this at least, well, definitely over a year ago, because I had it at Knit Away 2 years ago, or last year, and I think I started it after the first Knit Away. But anyway, this is my sock yarn blanket, and I'm just really enjoying the quick squares. You know, doing the squares takes me about, I think about 45 minutes to cast on, knit the square, cast off, and weave in the ends if I do it right away. I'm kind of right in the middle of a square here, but I'm just gonna show you along the way. And it's kind of fun to go back and say, oh yeah, I made a pair of socks with this yarn and this yarn, and oh, I dyed up this yarn myself, and it's just a lot of fun to go through and look at the yarns that you've used. And a lot of the yarns that I'm using are when I first started doing some dyeing, I was really nervous about, you know, dyeing an entire skein, and I'm thinking, wow, if I dye a skein of yarn and it doesn't turn out the way I want it, then I've got this whole skein. What am I going to do with it? So what I did was I wound off, I don't know, I think about 5 to 10 grams of yarn, and then I was dyeing those little skeinlets, which were perfect for squares on the sock yarn blanket, because you only need about, I think last week we said 7 to 8 or 7 to 10 yards of yarn for a square, and you don't need that much yarn. So I'm thinking, okay, and if it doesn't work exactly the way I wanted it, then it's no big deal. It's going to go on the sock yarn blanket, and if it's not the prettiest yarn, then that's alright too. So yeah, so I spent a lot of time just dyeing little skeinlets, and it helped me with my confidence in dyeing yarn, and being more confident that if I dyed a full skein of yarn, that it was going to turn out. And even And it even gave me that opportunity to dye something up and find out it didn't work, and then to over dye it and find out how much it will still look good even over dyed. For instance, this particular square right here, I dyed and I didn't like how it turned out, so I over dyed it. I think I over dyed it in a green, and I will try and take a picture of this and show it, because I'm not sure how close you can see it from there, but I over dyed this in a darker shade of green, and it really turned out cool, even though the original piece that I dyed didn't turn out the way I had expected it to. So yeah, so it really, like I said, it really helps me get confident in my dyeing process. And I'm really enjoying doing these squares, and I've done a lot of swaps in the sock yarn blanket forum on Ravelry. So I did swaps with commercial yarns, and then I've also done dye it yourself swaps, which was a lot of fun, where everybody dyed their own yarn and then sent it away. So that really helped my confidence a lot. So anyway, so this is my sock yarn blanket. I'm hoping to get some more progress on it. It is kind of big. It's not too difficult to work on. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it gets to be, you know, bedspread size, but it's not too bad. And I am adding an I-cord bind off border. Again, I'm not sure how you'll be able to see it on this video, but I will try and take a picture of this too. And I went round and around about what color I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do black, but then I didn't want it to be too bold, you know, standing out on the edge. So I went with like a muted purple. And it's a Knit Pick Stroll. Knit Pick Stroll, I really like their yarn. This is a heather. I'm not sure what color it is, but it's a purple heathered Knit Pick Stroll. And I really like how the purple is accenting the other squares, and it's not too bold, it doesn't stand out too much. So that's my sock yarn blanket. The other project, again, I'm going to reach again. I should have sat down first and to see how far I had to reach. The other project I started this week is a commissioned project, but because this pattern is already out in the world, I'm going to be able to show you my progress on it. This is the project that I'm doing. It's the Not Quite a Cape, and it's a really simple sweater as far as I'm concerned. I have knit both fronts. I did start with the fronts because they're smaller. You can see how in the picture they start out wide and then they pretty much narrow right down to the raglan sleeve, and the arms are a bigger piece than the fronts. So I did start with the fronts just so I could hurry up and get something going on that. Feel like I made some accomplishment this week. And I have started the first sleeve. So I'm that much done on the first sleeve, and both fronts are done. The ends aren't woven in, but the knitting's done. This yarn is Noro. It's not what's called for in the pattern, but this yarn that the person gave me to do this project with is Noro Retro, and it's a single. I think most Noro yarns are singles, but I'm not a fan of singles. I prefer applied yarn, but you know, you work with what you get. So this yarn is a single. There are spots that are a little thicker than others. You don't really see it so much in the knitted fabric, but you know, if you're looking at the yarn in itself, you do see it a little bit more. And the new spinner in me is kind of getting a little frustrated with the slubs of fabric, and I want to kind of draft them out on my own, because I've come across some really big slubs in the yarn, and I've wanted to draft them out, but I just knit right through it and keep going. I am doing this project on US 8s, and it's going pretty quick with the limited amount of knitting that I've had time to do this week, and to be able to get both fronts done and this part of the sleeve. You know, I guess, I don't know if I knit fast. I mean, a lot of people say that I knit fast, but I don't think I knit fast. I think I just knit a lot, but I didn't have my normal knitting time this week, so I didn't get a whole lot done. I think I was able to get like a sleeve done in a little over, like one day at work I started the sleeve, and then the next day I finished it. So a couple of hours for the sleeve. So that's not too bad. The other project that I started this week was the on, I believe it's Knitting Like Crazy, and I'll have to double check that, but I meant to do that before I started this. But Knitting Like Crazy started a mystery shawl yesterday. And last week I mentioned that I'm usually not knitting what is current, so I decided this week, since I learned about this knit along and its mystery from Rain Lover Knits, and I thought, okay, it hasn't started yet. The clue hasn't even been released. I'm gonna try and start it. So yesterday afternoon I downloaded the clue, and I'm sorry, no, that was Friday. I downloaded the clue and I started it last night. And I'm using a yarn that I dyed myself. This was the very first tonal yarn that I dyed, and this yarn I dyed in a mason jar. One of those where you shove the yarn in there and you squeeze a little bit of color in. And I started with the lightest color, and I just squeezed the color in, and I heated that up, and then I went with a little bit darker color and kept moving up the scale. I just kept adding more color. And I really liked how it turned out. Again, I'm not sure how well you can see the color variation in that, but I will again try and embed a picture there for you. And here's how much I've gotten done. I started this last night. I had knitting club yesterday, and I spent a lot of time at knitting club yesterday finishing projects, so I actually had some finished objects to show you today because I didn't have a lot of knitting time this week. So I spent a lot of time yesterday finishing those things, which I'll talk about in a minute. But last night we went to dinner and came home, and I started this last night, and while we were watching a couple of shows, I got this much done on the mystery shawl knit along. So I really like how the yarn is just really, again, tonal. You know, you got some darker spots, some lighter spots, some white spots, and I really like how the yarn is working up. And I'm using US size 4s for this, and again, it's working up quite quickly when you start with, I think it was 11 stitches. You know, the first few rows go really quickly. So yeah, this is my first knit along that's a mystery. I've seen the mystery shawls and mystery knit alongs before, but I've always been very apprehensive about it, and you know, never knowing if you're gonna have enough yarn or whatever. So, but this time I just decided to take the plunge and give it a shot, see how it goes. It may be my first and my last, or it might be the start of a madness that I have to knit all the mystery alongs that are posted on Ravelry. Oh, and the yarn base on this one is Webb's Valley Yarns. I got it from Webb's, and it's Valley Yarns Franklin sock base. And this was the yarn that I bought when I started doing all of my dyeing. I do like the base. It seems like a really good workhorse yarn. This is the first thing I've actually knit, other than my squares on my sock yarn blanket, that I've actually knit with it. But I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, and I'm thinking about ordering some more, because after seeing how this is working up, and I'm thinking, yeah, I can do a lot of things with some hand-dyed yarn. So I have all of the, now that I've built up my confidence in my dyeing process, I have purchased, you know, in addition to the Wiltons, which is what I used before, I purchased some acid dyes, so I'm going to try those out. And you know, so I might be doing a little bit more dyeing. I'm not going to be selling it, but it's just going to be for myself. But, so, and then I have, I'm going to jump to my spinning. I didn't do spinning either this week, so I don't have any progress on my Lady Llama fiber at all. But I did want to show you the other spinning project that I've been working on that I didn't show you last week because it was across the room. This is yarn from Yarn Hollow, and it is a BFL Tussa silk top, and it's a lot of different colors, and it's just from blues to oranges to pinks to purples, and it's just a lot of different colors, and I'm liking spinning this. I haven't done too much of it. This is all I've spun up. It's very little amount, but I am spinning it very thin. It's again, it's a very thin single because I'm hoping to get a lace weight out of it. This spindle that I'm spinning it on is a KY spindle. I think I got it from the Woolery, and like I mentioned last week, I think I bought like 8 new spindles in the week or 2 weeks between the time I learned how to spin and going to Knit Away, and this was one of them. I had bought some more expensive spindles, some $60 and $100 spindles. Yeah, I'll show some of those in future episodes, but I wanted to try some of the cheaper ones too, because not everybody has that budget that they can buy a $100 spindle or a $65 spindle. So this one was, I believe it was $20. It was at the Woolery, and it's 16 grams. You know, I want to spin lace in very fine fibers, so you need a lightweight spindle. This one's only 16 grams. It's the full. I think the spindles, there's 3 levels of spindles for KY spindle, and full is the lightest weight, and I think they have a range. I think it's like 15 to 17 grams or something like that. So this one is actually 16 grams, and I really like it so far. Again, I haven't spun that much on it, but so far what I have spun on it, I do like. It does spin very well, and I'm enjoying it. And everyone's talking about fractal spinning and doing this and how they're doing the fibers. And I kind of did that with this. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, because the only thing I've ever really spun was my Knit Girls fiber so far that I've plied and I'm actually using. So I'm not really sure how it's going to turn out, but I'm just going to go with it. And, you know, I'm sure that no matter what, it's going to look really cool when it's done. So that's my spinning this week. And before I get to my finished objects, I think I'm going to show you what I purchased this week. And as you can see behind me, I don't need any more yarn. But I wanted to be able to have some stash enhancements to show you on the podcast. So I think it was Wednesday or Thursday I found some yarn that I wanted to purchase as a de-stash on Ravelry. So I emailed her, or we talked on instant message or whatever on Ravelry, and got her paid for the yarn, and she shipped it off, and she emailed me and said, oh, it's going to be there Saturday. So I'm like, oh, cool, so I will have something to show after all. Anyway, this is Woolmy's Twin and the Petite Poison No. 5 medium. Now, I really like this fiber, this colorway. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, because there's actually, the way that Woolmy's does some of her colorway names, they're very similar. The one that I was actually looking for, because she didn't have, the woman that I bought this from didn't have a picture of it on Ravelry. She just, I think I posted in the In Search Of thread for Woolmy's on their board that I was looking for the petite, or that I was looking for Poison No. 5, and she sent me an instant message saying that she had it and she was willing to sell it. And of course I just jumped at it. As long as it was still in the original skein, I was happy. So she sent it off to me and I got it. The color I was really looking for was Poison No. 5, and the way that Woolmy's does it, she does have some very similar color names. So it's a simple mistake, and it's not a big deal because I really do still like this colorway. But I like this yarn. This is really only my 3rd skein of Woolmy's. I know everybody is crazy about it. I haven't knit with it yet. I do want to start a shawl with some of the other stuff that I got, but I'm not sure if I like it or not yet because I haven't knit with it, but I just thought I had to get it. So that's my stash enhancement of the week. Only one thing, but you know, when you see behind me all the stuff that I have, I really don't need any more yarn. I'm hoping that this podcast helps me work through some projects, because as you'll see with some of the finished objects that I have this week, most of them were started back in 2009, so yeah, they've been taking a long time on the needles. So anyway, let's get right into it. Let me just take a quick sip first. I'm just drinking water. No special coffees for me today, right now. So last week when I was doing my downloads or my conversions and everything for the podcast, I tried to finish up some things. And I finished up a dishcloth. This is a Tunisian Crochet dishcloth. At Knit Away this year, one of my friends, Michelle, she taught us how to do Tunisian crochet. And I had seen it done before, but I had never actually done it. And until just recently, I never purchased a needle for it. So I did purchase the needle so that I was able to do it at Knit Away. And I really like it. I'm not a huge crochet fan because I don't like the look of the crochet stitch as much as I like knitting, which is why I do more knitting than crochet. But this really looks a lot more like knitting than crochet. It's still got the thickness and the bulk of crochet that crochet does, but it just looks more like knitting than crochet, and I think that's why I like Tunisian crochet better than just regular crochet. So that was a quick project. This is my second one. The first one that I did, I left at the cabin so that next year when we go, we can see if our little knitted objects are still, you know, waiting for us to come back. So, but this is the second one that I started while I was there, and I didn't really finish it until last week when I was doing the podcast. But it was a quick project, and I should have finished it quicker than that, but I didn't. Okay, now on to the other finished objects. Again, a lot of these projects were started back in 2009. This is a pair of slippers. I think I have knit somewhere between 15 and 25 pairs of these felted clog slippers, and I've gotten pretty efficient at it. However, this pair I cast on in November of 2009, and I just finished them. I finished the actual knitting of them at Knit Away, but I didn't seam them up until yesterday because I just was trying to do other projects and they didn't get seamed up. But yesterday when I was doing all my finishing, so I had some finished objects to show you, I seamed up these slippers for my husband, and they're going to go in the washer hopefully later today or sometime this week and get felted up so he can have some new slippers. He goes through slippers like crazy. I think I made him 2 pairs, and then he ended up stretching out a pair of mine because his had holes in them. I mean big holes, like this big. He comes to me one day and says, "Oh, I have a hole in my slipper, can you fix it?" And I'm looking, I've got a hole this big through 2 layers of the bottom. And you know there's 2 layers on the bottom. I'm like, "No, I can't fix that." So I gave him one of my pairs. They were a little small at first, but he just stretched them out and they were fine. So then I told him I would make him some more, and I was going to put some leather soles on the bottom. He's like, "Oh, I don't want leather soles on the bottom, then I can't go sliding around," because our whole house is pretty much hardwood floors and tile and whatnot. So he goes sliding across the kitchen floor all the time, and I think that's why he's got such big holes in them. But anyway, he's got a new pair of slippers that will be coming to him soon. And I went through, when I was doing all of my yarn separating and sorting it out, I did find that I had a lot of extra like wool that I had made all these slippers from over the past couple of years, and I'm going to make him a few more pairs just of hodgepodge colors that, you know, don't have enough for a pair of slippers, but I might be able to, you know, pull a couple colors here and there So I've kind of sorted the yarn by the colors that kind of go together so that I can just pull them out and knit them up. And like I said, I think I timed myself one time on doing these slippers, and for my size, which is like it's not the smallest size, it's the next to smallest size, and I can knit a pair. I mean, just knit them. I don't think I was seaming them up or anything at that point, but I can knit a pair of the slippers in about 6.5 hours. So it is really a quick knit if I sit down and knit them, but these obviously took me a long time to do. The next item, and again, some of these sweaters, I'm going to try and embed pictures for you so that you can see them a little bit better. The next one is Wicked. And I started this sweater in October of 2009, the beginning of October 2009. And again, here I am 2 years later and just barely getting it done. This was the sweater that I mentioned last week that I was a cuff away from being done. And I was debating on whether or not I was going to take out the other cuff because I had screwed up on the ribbing. I decided nobody's going to notice it. I don't really care. I'm not even going to notice it when I don't look at it. So I decided that I was just going to go with it, leave it. Yesterday I wove in the ends and another finished object. I did modify the pattern slightly because I don't like the extremely wide neck on the Wicked sweater. So I think I put in my comments on Ravelry that I cast on 136 stitches, and I'm not really sure what the actual number of stitches was supposed to be, but that's what I did to make the neck a little bit narrow. And then I made the long sleeve version for this was actually a DK weight yarn. I think I was getting the same stitch gauge. I don't think I had to modify it any other way than that. But then I put the long sleeves on it, and I think I had to calculate my own decreases or whatever, which was no big deal since I kind of have some knowledge about designing and whatnot. So that was my next finished object. It's kind of nice to get some of these old projects off the needles that have been on the needles for so long, and that's kind of what I'm hoping this podcast will do, is help me keep things moving along. And the next one, which turned out a lot cuter than I thought it would, it's the Beach Cover Up by Knit Picks, and it's a very, very simple thing. It's pretty much cast on, knit up to the armhole, cast off, I think, like 4 stitches, knit the armhole, cast off or I think you knit up so far, and then you do this ribbing at the top of the arms, and then cast off, and then the sleeves are knit completely straight, so they're a little like a bell-bottom sleeve. A little bit, I'm not sure if you can see that, but yeah, it turned out to be really, really cuter than I thought it would be. And yesterday, that was another thing that I finished up. I seamed up this sweater yesterday. I did try it on. It hasn't been blocked yet. I did try it on, and it's a little shorter than I would like, but it's a cover-up, and I'll be wearing a tank top or something underneath it anyway. So hopefully, with blocking, I can kind of stretch out the length a little bit. But it's a cute sweater. I didn't really particularly like working with the yarn, which is Knit Picks Twist. Oh, and by the way, the Wicked was the Knit Picks City Tweed DK weight, and I really did like that yarn. I loved working with that. But this yarn was, I believe it was a cotton nylon something blend, and had no give. So working with the yarn, it just was really hard on my hands. I think that's why, one of the reasons why this project took me so long, because just to work with it, it was really hard. But it's a very lacy, I'm going to try and show you the pattern a little bit, but it's a very lacy pattern. It's called a herringbone pattern. So it's I like the pattern, and I like the laciness of it, and I really like how the sweater turned out as a whole, but working with the yarn wasn't quite what it was all cracked up to be. But I think that yarn has been discontinued, but it does really work great for this sweater. So that is my last finished item, And I think that's all the finished items that I have for today. I talked last week about doing some searches on Ravelry to see if I could find some quick projects that I could use for the one balls that I have in my stash. I did a little bit of that on last week, but I didn't really spend too much time with it, so I didn't find any projects that I just had to, you know, run and find a ball that I could use and start working on. So that's kind of been on the back burner a little bit. What else? Is there anything else that I wanted to mention this week? I don't think so. The podcast shout out that I wanted to mention this week was I Swear I'm Knitting, and Sarah is I think she's on episode, I'm not sure, I just watched an episode this morning. I want to say it was episode 20. No, I think that was JD's Twisted Strands was episode 20. Anyway, Sarah, she also does the Perfect Day yarns, and I've been enjoying watching her show and seeing the yarns, and I'm looking forward to when she starts the next sock club, because she has a, I think she dyes up the yarn, and she has a sock club that she sends out. I don't know if it's monthly or bi-monthly, but I'm looking forward to when she starts the next one, because I think I'm going to sign up for it, even though I don't need any more yarn. But some of the colorways that she's done this time have been really, really nice. So it sounds like she uses a different yarn base, you know, for each colorway. But anyway, so Sarah at I Swear I'm Knitting podcast, and she's also the Perfect Day Yarns. I think she has her, she lists everything on, for her podcast, on the Perfect Day Yarns group on Ravelry. I don't think she has a separate group for that. And then I mentioned JD on Twisted Strands, and she is one crazy chick, but I just keep going back for more. She's a little crazy, but I keep going back every week to watch her episode to see what she's up to. You know, she does a lot of knitting for her dolls. She's a doll collector, and she does a lot of knitting for her dolls. And I think she's a Sims fan too, which I think that's why I like her, because I play a lot of Sims myself. And lately I haven't done a lot of playing of Sims, but I do Sims, and it does take away from my knitting time a lot. But you know, sometimes you just need some downtime and you need to play Sims, so I do that as well. Hang on a second. I've got runaway yarn with a cat. Marty! The one little ball of, the one ball of yarn that's hooked to my sock yarn blanket, the cat just picked up and ran off with. So, anyway, but I think that's it for today. And here, you want to say hello? Come here. No. This is Marty. He is our long-haired kitty. We usually get him shaved. This is for Valerie, because she mentioned that when I talked last week about somebody across the room playing with the bag, and which was Cody, she was wishing that I had picked him up and showed him. So Valerie, here's your Marty fix of the week. And he's our long-haired cat. We usually get him shaved in the summertime with a lion cut, but we haven't got him shaved yet. But he's my little mischief maker, and he's the one that was running off with my yarn. So, but that's it for today. So everybody, happy Mother's Day, and I hope you enjoyed the day. It seems like it's going to be a really nice day here in Michigan. We're getting ready to go out for a Mother's Day brunch with the family. But that's it, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.